experts and share our passions and our excitement with Splunk and things like that. So that's the primary agenda of the user group itself. We have some exciting news actually to begin with. We have a new leader for the India region. So that itself shows that, Splunk is putting a lot of interest back into India. And we want to take this opportunity to introduce our new leader to you and, have a few words from him. Jyoti actually is been a veteran in the industry. He has, several years under his belt. He's kind of a very known name in the cybersecurity space and things like that. And we wanted to just give him a moment to introduce himself and talk about his plans about the India region itself. So Jyoti, over to you, please.
Thanks, Sandeep. Am I audible, Sandeep?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfectly. Thanks. Let me welcome all of you once again. As Sandeep has mentioned, this is the first Bangalore user forum that we are conducting. But trust me, I come from a background where I strongly believe that it's very important to be closer to the user group, because user groups are the people who are, first of all, they have been using the product, they have a future roadmap to expand the product, and also they are the custodian in terms of giving any right or wrong reference. And if I take it positively, user group is the forum where we also expect a lot of feedbacks, which could help us to understand and redraft and redesign the GTM that we have. So at the end of the day, company is as successful as it is closer to its end customer. That's what I strongly believe. A bit of introduction from my side. I've been in security for almost 2 decades. And almost 95% of my work career has been around security. So I still remember those days when we used to talk to the customer and talk about whether can you give an access to internet so that you can open your perimeter and all those discussion. I'm talking about 20 years back. And today the same guys are so much trained that they come back and give us a lot of inputs which we have not even heard of. So that's a cycle, and that's the exciting piece of security market. And I think as a security professional, that's the learning that we should gather, and it keeps us going. I come from a background of Symantec, WebSense, which is now ForcePoint, and then last stint I had was with HP Micro Focus, and I've been very closely working with the CISO community across India, and I would say SAARC countries as well. So my charter is very clear. I need to make sure that I would say few of the concerns that existing customers had, that why Splunk is not investing in country, and it's always difficult to catch hold of people for simple queries. So I think Splunk with the investment plan that we have, as we move forward in a couple of months, you'll see the kind of expansion that we are looking out for. For Splunk, India is a very, I would say, critical and crucial market. And from a strategic perspective, this has been identified as one of the high focus prioritized markets worldwide. So a lot of focus is there. People are coming from all over the globe to, first of all, understand what is the potential of this region and what is the investment that is required. So as I said, moving forward, we have already rolled out a plan to have a couple of more resources. I'm talking about resources all across. I'm talking about sales, pre-sales, technical, post-sales. And also we are going to invest a lot in terms of making sure that our collaborative partners and the channel partners are trained enough and equipped enough to serve you better. So that, the technological dominance that we have from a Splunk perspective, I think acceptance of technology is not a challenge as far as Splunk is concerned. The problem comes in how easy it is going to be for you to avail services from Splunk, whether it is pre-sales, post-sales, deployment, consulting services, anything. And the charter that I am brought into in Splunk India is to drive that initiative. So I'll be working very closely with you. Moving forward, I'll make sure that we get in touch with all of you. This is definitely a very challenging period because of COVID-19, but I would put it into perspective that it's going to be a very interesting period. This is the time where a lot of innovation will happen. This is the time where a lot of new process will come in to reach out to the end customer vendors very closely. whether an office is required or not, that is something, a lot of discussion is happening in the industry, because all discussions, all meetings can happen, over the video chat as well. So I think till the time we have, complete, shutdown of the lockdown, I would say, we need to learn to talk to each other over WebEx or, whatever means that we have. So I will take a pause now. I will hand it over to Sandeep. And once again, thanks a lot for all of you to joining us. As I said, this is the first session we are conducting, but you'll see the frequency will go up, and we'll keep on talking to you on regular frequency. Over to you, Sandeep. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. Those are excellent insights that you brought in. And we are all very excited and honored to have you as our leader. So look forward to all the exciting days forward. All right. So a little bit introduction about the user group forum also. So right now we have 3 participants who we will talk about: myself, Sandeep, Niket, and Kamlesh. So we are the main people who are going to be running the user group, but essentially we're looking for a lot more participants who want to present on these sessions and own the user group and try to make it as lively as possible. Like Jyoti mentioned, we want to make this user group very interactive, try to bring out new ideas. And, India is a place where a lot of ideas are born, and I think we should realize those things in these tough situations that we have. So that's the idea behind this group that we've kind of started. So some points about myself. My name is Sandeep Naik. I'm a senior sales engineer. I'm primarily an architect and consultant. I work in pre-sales. I am also a black belt in unarmed combat. So I've been studying martial arts for about 4 years now. I'm also a astrophotography enthusiast. I've not really had too much time, but as you can see, I've taken some pictures of Jupiter, Saturn, and Moon, things like that. More than happy to share some others offline. I'm also a complete DIY enthusiast. So, I like building a lot of things. So I built up like a simple virtual server on which has like about 24 cores, and I run a bunch of virtual machines on it. I deal with a lot of Raspberry Pi based projects. I have a 3D printer. I have like a Bitcoin miner as such. And, I try to keep building all of these new things, and I try to stay updated on technology as much as I can. So that's my primary background. I obviously love Splunk, and I'm hoping that, all of these activities that I'm using will have some Splunk embedded in them. So thank you. Niket, over to you.
Before I start with mine, even if you take a peek around Sandeep's background, a lot of the electronic stuff you will find over there because his projects are right over there. Hi everybody, this is Niket Mile. I'm a sales engineer with Splunk. It's been 4 months with Splunk, but I've been a Splunker for over 7 years, and it's close to 8 this year. I've been a Splunk Trust MVP for 3 years in a row. Now that I'm part of Trust, I am actually kind of old person, retired trustee. I'm also a Splunk Answers Karma leader. I've got more than 50,000 points on Splunk Answers. Most of you have actually interacted with me virtually through Splunk Answers. Here are the 3 data points that I wanted to tell about myself. I like to play tennis. If you see the first one, it allows me to keep my head in the game because it's a head tennis racket. Second thing is I love photography. Wherever I travel, I definitely take my camera along with me. And third thing is I actually see visualization almost in everything that is around me. If you notice, the third photo which is over there is actually was at one of my friend's place. And now folks would start relating to the series that they have plotted before in dashboards. And these are actually all the KPI thresholds. There is gray, green, yellow, orange, and red in exact same sequence that we plot in dashboards. So that's all about myself. Kavish, over to you.
Thank you, Niket.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kamlesh Rajela. I'm software engineer at Cisco Systems. As I know, I'm always available in Splunk community, in Splunk Answers and Splunk User Group, Slack channels. So I have been Splunk Trust member over the last 2 years, 19 and 20. And I'm very passionate about the Splunk apps and the custom visualization. The technology add-on, I have worked most of the 60 add-ons. So all of the add-ons like the security add-ons, clouds add-ons, cloud data store add-ons. So I have worked most of the add-ons over there. And apart from the security apps, integrations, third-party integrations, alerts, and executions. So all the aspects of this Splunk, I'm very passionate about to explore more and more into Splunk. Apart from these, the custom visualization, I have built my own custom visualization with the different use cases. I have found many use cases on Splunk Answer, how people are using the Splunk and how we are giving the best solution to them. As we know, the nowadays many customer has the complex structure, complex architecture, and complex data. So the visualizing those data is the challenging stuff. So taking this challenge as a personal stuff and the provide the robust visualization, robust solution to them. I'm mainly focused on the Splunk extensions, the Splunk JavaScript extensions, and the third-party visualization. I'm also passionate about the integrations. When we talk about the integrations, then I always use to how to pull the data from the third-party tools to Splunk. So the integration should work very uh, smoothly and punctually. Whenever I say smoothly, whenever I talk about the data from the data might be a cloud monitoring, it might be from the cloud storage, on-premise storage, networking, and everything. So the technology add-on will help us to make it onboard all kind of data. So I'm very much passionate about this. As I say, my passion, I'm also black belt in karate, judo, and aikido. I have an expertise in free flow weapons, semi-automatic weapons, and weapons. I have took some training from the army also, so I know the how to uh, uh, handle all kind of weapons, how to open, how to close, how to throw grenades. It is a very much passionate. When I was in the military camp, I have been 2 months in military camp, that's the army attachment camp on the border. So it was very great days. Apart from this, a gaming thing, I would like to play game, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor. Nowadays, I'm playing Call of Duty Mobile and PUBG. So if you are a COD or PUBG player, you can find me after 12 at night. So that's how I am. So thank you, Niket.
Awesome. Thank you, Kamlesh. I'm very humbled. That's amazing qualification you have. So
Thank you so much.
without much delay, let's get started. So we're going to start with the first session, which is basically going to be by me itself. 1 second, let me get it's going again. Okay. All right. So hopefully everybody is able to see my screen. Okay, great. So thank you again. This is the first session that we're going to cover. This is the Splunk remote work insights. So, like Jyoti mentioned earlier, these are very tough times that we're living in, right? I mean, nobody had anticipated something like this would happen. Obviously, Splunk also did not anticipate anything like this, and it's been new for all of us. So what Splunk has been doing is that, we've been trying to build our own solution to help customers kind of assist their employees to work remotely and provide their IT teams with some kind of insights into how they can operationalize everything. So that's basically the topic that I'm going to first talk about. Like most of our sessions, there are possibilities of us talking about some forward-looking statements. There are possibilities where we will talk about some upcoming solutions and the like. So you have to use your this thing there and keep your mind on the current solutions that are available. There are a lot of exciting new features that we will talk about that we have access to. But the idea is that we're going to present the art of the possible, as we call it. You all know that Splunk is amazing. There are some crazy, cool use cases that you can all build. But we also have to stay focused on what is available today when we are talking about these solutions to our customers. All right. So what is Splunk Remote Work Insights? So it's basically a support system for your remote workforce. So, you basically, like Jyoti mentioned, the times are different now. Now you have to work over WebEx, Zoom sessions, you work on emails mostly, you work on a lot of workshops which are done completely remotely and things like that. So all of us are currently completely adapting to the new thing. But this obviously presents a whole new solutions and whole new challenges to us. So this particular solution that we're going to first talk about is helping move customers to move their employees to remotely work, and also to help their IT and security teams to work with this kind of new complexity. Because obviously there are going to be new challenges where users or their employees may not be able to access systems. They might be hackers trying to break into the environment and things like that. So it's very important that we stay focused and we provide mechanisms in which you can still work through all of these challenges. But before we even get started, there are some principles for enabling remote workforces, and that I want to be very clear about it, right? Remote work insight is about monitoring systems and not employees. So, don't think about this particular solution being a mechanism in which we want to monitor all the employees, whether they're badged in, whether they're working together, and all of those kind of things. No. The idea is that, we are completely committed to the customers and employees' data privacy. So to give you an example, we'll focus on how many people are logged into Zoom, or how many people are having issues with Zoom. What is the problem that the current Zoom systems are not able to scale up, and that kind of stuff, right? And we're not going to focus on which people, why they not log in, and that kind of stuff, right? So that is the idea behind remote work insight. The purpose is also to kind of manage all your applications, but not just applications, but monitor the performance. Like I mentioned, Zoom performance is good, audio quality is good, sessions are working properly, you're not getting errors and that kind of stuff. And also to secure the networks and remote locations. Obviously, security is a big challenge now, so we have to make sure that all of the devices that they're using to connect to are secure and it's not open to any attacks and things like that. And idea is that these are unprecedented times. We are going from when there were only used to be about 5% to 10% remote workers to like 95% remote workers. So to prepare IT for that kind of remote work capability is something that was unprecedented, and they need to scale up very quickly. So remote work insight will help you to some extent. And secure your organization for a complete work from home world, right? So how do you continue working from home? How do you make sure that IT provides those best practices to work from home and still connected and all of those kind of things? And idea is build a more resilient workspace. We will talk a lot more about global restart later, but I just want to talk about what is global restart. So global restart is basically once people start coming back. So you just notice that Bangalore government has announced that they're going to ease the restrictions. People can start coming back on the field. They can start operating and those kind of things. So that is a restart again. So how do you enable your own company so that they can be more efficient in terms of how they're working? So that is the idea behind it. Again, all of these slides will be shared with you. There are some links from which I have kind of captured all of these things. This is a very interesting blog written by our CTO, Tim Tully. So I would encourage all of you to read through it. So before we get started on a demo as such, I want to talk about what are the core use cases that remote work insight will help with. So one is VPN activity. So, remote access. So people connecting remotely, how do they access the systems, and how do you monitor the VPN network and that kind of stuff. We'll also have authentication based use cases where, whether it's Active Directory or authentication services like, like your single sign on, dual login, things like that. So it could be Duo, it could be Okta, SailPoint, and Windows, or it could even be some other solutions like, maybe Google Authenticate or any of those kind of solutions. And it's possible to kind of build all of those capabilities back into remote work insight. So that's very interesting stuff that we have over here. The third use case is mostly on the collaboration piece of it. So collaboration is again very important now because everybody needs to work together. They need to stay connected and things like that. So you can't really get up from your seat and go to your friend's place and say, hey dude, can you come and help me? So we had to figure out some other mechanism to do this. So obviously you're all using Slack, you're using different messenger services and things like that. So how do we kind of make sure that that is working properly is what this collaboration piece will come. And the last part is the conferencing, which is exactly your Zoom video sessions or your sharing sessions, WebEx, whichever tool that you would have. So these are the primary use cases that Remote Work Insights will help you with. So before I go into any of the details about that, let's probably just jump into the demo itself. So just bear with me for a second. I'm just closing everything. I'm hoping everybody can see my screen. Please do let me know if you're able to see. Niket, is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Niket, I did forget to mention that you have to start a recording. So maybe I'm hoping that you had already started.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. It's recording from introduction. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great, fantastic. Yeah, so this screen that you're seeing is basically our remote work insights dashboard. So it's a free app that you can download from Splunk base. Again, the idea behind these sessions is not to kind of sell our solutions, but the idea is to kind of talk about what all has been built by Splunk already for existing customers, so they can use Splunk to better manage their systems as such. Okay, so that's why most of the things that we'll talk about are free solutions. We're not going to talk about premium solutions unless there is a real request to do so. Remote Work Insight is the executive dashboard, that app that we have. And again, even this entire demo that we're going to be presenting is actually available on our Splunk Oxygen portal. So people who have completed their SE1 certification can get a free Oxygen portal demo login, and they can log in and kind of demo these capabilities to your teams. Okay, so let's get started. So what you're seeing over here is basically our executive dashboard. So what you can see over here is that it says what are the total number of VPN sessions currently active. You can see the active Zoom meetings that are available. What is the most popular app today? So, if you have like different apps, so I'll give you an example here. Like you have Salesforce, ServiceNow, Slack, Workday, and all of those kind of things. So right now it seems like Zoom is the most popular app, right? And you can also see the number of VPN logins. You can see that how many VPN people have been logging in via VPN, so 4,000 and so on. But you can see that the success rate suddenly took a plummet. And there were a lot of failures over here. So, we'll try to see why exactly we have so many failures. So you can see before that, the number of successes was very high. Failures were low, but suddenly it took a plummet here where the number of failures went pretty high. You can also get insight into the Zoom meeting. So you can see that the number of Zoom meetings is pretty good, but the average meeting duration also fell down sharply around here kind of a thing. So we'll have to see what exactly happened over there. Oh, okay. Apparently my screen is frozen. Are you guys facing similar issues?
Not for me. I think I can see remote work inside the dashboard.
Okay, but you can also see my mouse moving and stuff like that.
Yeah, the mouse is right now in top apps.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
perfect.
I can.
Okay, I've just paused because I saw some comments.
Yeah, I was about to write, but I think it's a network issue or just video connectivity or network bandwidth. Sandeep, you can go ahead.
All right. So you can see that the top apps, in the top app section, Salesforce was like a top app all along. But then suddenly, towards the end, we see that Zoom has become the top app and Salesforce is no longer there. So it's possible that a lot of people could have potential login problems into Salesforce and they stopped using Salesforce, right? So that's something that we might need to investigate further on. We also get to see where people are connected from. So you can see different regions that they're connecting from. We have Americas, EMEA, India, all over the world, right? For your particular organization. But what is kind of troubling is these reds and greens that you're seeing. So you can see that the number of failures is increasing for people connecting. So there are a lot of people who are facing difficulties in logging into the systems and things like that. So that's something that we may want to investigate. All right, so how do we investigate? So, the first thing is we see that Zoom is the most popular app, so maybe we want to troubleshoot about that first. So I do video conference Zoom ops. Now again, we'll talk a little bit more in detail when I get to it, but essentially all of these things that you're seeing over here can be completely customized to your requirements. If you didn't use Zoom ops, we could do something like a WebEx meeting ops, right? So if you use WebEx heavily in your organization, you can use this to find out exactly what's going on. You can see over here, we have details like number of active meetings, meeting participants, longest meetings, and so on. Currently, it's showing all zeros because, again, the demo unit that we have is presently the US. So it's showing that it's all gone offline. It'll come back online in a couple of hours as such. But what I want you to focus on is that, you could easily look at this from a troubleshooting perspective. So, like, for example, suddenly there were no more active meetings. It's peak of the day. What do you need to do? So you can find out that it's possible that Zoom itself is having an outage and you can troubleshoot further. So you can see the number of active participants, the longest meeting minutes, and all of those kind of details comes in right over here. We also provide details like, the what kind of meetings are being conducted. So you can see that, let me see if I can increase the size a little bit over here. So you can see that instant meeting seems to be the most popular meeting choice over here. And scheduled meetings are much lesser. This could also potentially be an indication of a problem because there are times when you do an instant meeting is you are on a scheduled call, not able to log in, and you ask somebody else to start the instant meeting, and that's what happens, right? So you can find out about that. You can also find out about which device they're using to host these sessions, so you can then troubleshoot according to those things. So this provides you all of that kind of information very nicely. Okay. Moving on from there, we also have something called authentication ops. So, from an authentication perspective, we can find out what all's been going on. So you can see the first thing that catches our eye over here is that the authentication success rate is only 60%, which is kind of poor. I mean, you should have somewhere around 90 to 95%. Having 60% indicates that there is definitely some problem that we need to kind of troubleshoot into, right? You can also see the number of authentication attempts. There are 32 authentication attempts, which also indicates that there could be a potential problem. But look at the success rate over time. So we've kind of captured the number of successes and failures over time, and capture the success percentage over time also. So you can see that the number of failures are obviously increasing, and your success percentage has dropped significantly in the last half an hour to 1 hour, right? So that there is definitely some problem that you need to troubleshoot over here. The cool part again, now if you guys have used Splunk, you know that it's quite easy in which you can get to the root cause of the problem very quickly. But what we've done is we've also built up dashboards to kind of show you what those errors itself are. So here we just showed you the success or failures, but here for the failures, we've said what are the actual errors, right? And you can see that there is one particular error, which is kind of taking the most, right? And that one is login denied. It says no matching user is assigned to Radius app, Palo Alto Networks. So I just want you to remember Palo Alto Networks, Radius app, and it's related to the VPN, right? So that's all I want you to remember. So you definitely seem to have a problem with this particular thing. You can also go down and you can look at which are the applications which have a low success rate. So what we've done over here is the same success rate that we have captured over here. We've kind of captured that by different applications, and we've kind of presented the top apps with the problems, right? And if you guys have used Splunk, you know that all this is very simple for you to build these kind of things. Finally, the last aspect of this particular demo that I want to talk about is the Global Protect VPN login activity. So here again, we talk about it from a VPN perspective. This is also very useful to have. If you guys are from the security background, you obviously know about things where, like, let's say if you're heavily focused in the Americas and you don't have any people at all in Japan or South Korea or whatever, and suddenly you see access attempts from there, you know that there is potential hacking attempts. So you can use this kind of dashboard to find out what's going on. But in this particular use case, you can see that most of your errors are coming in from the Americas, and the rest of the region is not impacted as much. All the failures are coming in from Americas. And again, you get to see details like by country. So obviously US is the maximum chunk of it. You have also other countries, maybe that's okay. You can look at it by the city. So you can see that Ashburn is the biggest one, which has maximum number of customers here, successes and failures that we just talked about, and things like that. Now, obviously, the reasons for login failure is what I want to focus on. So you can see that the one particular error was invalid username or password. Now, that could be a potential where people just fat-fingered the password incorrectly and they were made to log in again. So that's kind of excusable. The other error is what we saw recently, which was access request failed. Request failed at step during MFA poll loop. Now, basically what that MFA poll loop means is basically it's multi-factor authentication. So you remember the previous example, we talked about Radius Palo Alto Networks. So there's kind of like a multi-factor authentication issue where they're not able to access it using that Radius loop as such. So let's validate if that is indeed the case. So you can see different things like, the successes and failures. Obviously, failures have gone significantly to our use case. We have plotted the same responses, whatever has happened, but we also have the raw data itself presented. So you can see that most of the issues seem to be with that MFA poll, that is multi-factor authentication itself. And you can see that a lot of users from different regions are facing the same issue. Okay. So if you actually give this particular information to your network team, it becomes very easy for them to kind of say, that, okay, this seems to be the problem. So, like, I think I closed that other one. If I go to authentication and look at this particular error, which is Radius Palo Alto Networks VPN Radius, and I share them this particular issue, then they'll know exactly what happened. So in this particular use case that we demonstrated, the story is that the multi-factor authentication Radius app that was there kind of was in a stuck state. So because of which some users were having issues, which is mostly in the Americas, the others were not. So the network team kind of figured that they might restart that particular application and they get started again, right? So that resolved the problem in this particular case. But the idea behind all of these was to show you as to how remote work insights can be used for looking at those very specific use cases. So, this is kind of like a high level overview. Kind of use cases, this was like a storyline that I presented, but the idea is to show you how in a day-to-day mechanism, how people will use it. But if you really look at what all use cases we do provide today, so for VPN monitoring, it's not restricted to only one or two technologies. We actually support different sources. So we support Cisco ASA, Cisco AnyConnect, NVM. We support Palo Alto Networks. We support Zscaler, Checkpoint. The kind of use cases that we provide, like you saw, was things like bandwidth utilization, connection issues, logins. So, whether login issues or number of users connected, the locations, the failures, all of that kind of stuff. We also provide use cases on authentication, where currently we are integrated with Okta, Duo, and Windows Active Directory. But the idea is that, we could possibly also have integrations into, Azure. We could have integrations into your Google solutions and those kind of things. And we've made it easy such that you can integrate all of those into remote work insight. So you can still present all of those use cases here. I'll talk about how we kind of consolidate them all together. So, we provide use cases like IT service monitoring, which is authorization details, authentication details, utilization trends, security, suspicious access, like whatever we talked about earlier. And things like that. The collaboration and communication. Today, we have integrations with Microsoft 365, Office 365, and Slack. Again, building on several other solutions. The idea of the number of the kind of use cases you present is the active users who are using collaboration mechanisms. If any malicious behavior is detected, to give you to what is malicious behavior. So, like for example, all of these solutions today, like Slack and things like that, it's possible to communicate using some kind of a REST API gateway. So you can have a lot of bots who suddenly start responding and saying, click on this link and all that kind of stuff. So which you can kind of detect using this kind of a solution and prevent those things from happening. We also look at file sharing solutions, that could be like OneDrive or SharePoint and things like that, where you can detect abuse, data exfiltration, which essentially means that, somebody is trying to remove data from your customer environment and host it somewhere publicly, right? So that's something that you want to disable. We also have Teams. I'll talk a little bit about Teams. Basically, about Microsoft Teams, we're kind of building some pretty cool capabilities into. I think I have some screenshots which I'll talk to you about. The video conferencing aspect, basically, we have integrations into Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, and Zoom today. Again, like I showed you in the demo, it'll be about the number of active meetings, service issues, what kind of devices they're logging in from, and all that kind of stuff. But also you could look at something like, what versions are these guys using? So are they facing the problem with a very old version, or it's related to something new? Are there any login attempts? And you also heard about Zoom bombing. So, is Zoom bombing a real case for you in your environment? Are people not following some strict guidelines about how you should prevent that from happening? And things like that. So you can detect those things pretty quickly with RWI. Well, obviously talk a little bit about our Cisco integrations because of our Cisco friends joining in this session. So we have a bunch of apps that have been now kind of enabled to work with the remote work insight solution. So from a VPN perspective, we have the add-on for Cisco ASA. We also have the Cisco AnyConnect NVM add-on, so you can get all of that information. For endpoint devices, you obviously have the Cisco CESA. So the Cisco AnyConnect app again has been built or upgraded such that it'll integrate all of those data into RWI, and you'll get some good information. From authentication perspective, you have your ASA, Cisco Firepower. You also have the Duo Splunk connector, so you can get all of that authentication related information in. Threat intelligence from Cisco Umbrella, threat grids, threat response, all of that comes into Splunk. From a conferencing perspective, obviously we have Cisco WebEx, but also remote call center analytics. So your CDR and all that kind of solutions kind of built in over here. So very tight integration with Cisco solutions. So for customers who are already using Cisco, you should blindly propose these solutions. You'll get a lot of value from that. All right. Very quickly, we just want to talk about what new capabilities we are introducing now. These are available today, so you can just go ahead and download these capabilities. So we have some very good integrations with Microsoft Office 365. So you can, again, the Office 365 is not limited to just the typical Office 365 capabilities. You can also add data from your Azure APIs and all of those things. You can see that Azure, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, Power BI, all of that becomes accessible to you. So we have this solution in. And again, the idea is that this will present data into remote work inside, and you can have cross-launch into the detailed apps from these solutions. So you can drill down to the root cause of the problem and solve it kind of a thing. Just a quick snapshot of our new Teams, Microsoft Teams app. So you can see that there are things like number of calls today, unique participants, the shortest time, longest meeting, all of that kind of stuff. So similar to what you saw in RWI, but the idea is to say that we are kind of building all of these kind of capabilities to address our customer requirements today. Again, we're looking forward to your feedback about what you think about the solution and how you can actually use it. And if you have any specific technologies that you want included as such, and we can all collaborate and help each other out. All right. The last thing that I want to kind of pause on is this one here. I hope you guys have been using the new Splunk mobile app. So all of these RWI capabilities will be accessible remotely using the Splunk mobile app solution as well. So you can see those executive dashboards that we talked about, the VPN ops, Okta activities, all of those things will come up very nicely in the mobile app itself. So it's been structured nicely so that it'll work remotely through all of those things. Okay. Oops, sorry. All right. So before I probably progress over here, this is the last slide that I'll pause on. Any questions so far? This slide basically is an indication of what all technologies we do support. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Sandeep, I think Sandeep Sarkar had a question for you. Sandeep, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, ask your question? Yes, Sandeep.
Okay, so we wanted to know regarding the IDS and IPS logs and also the local internet logs. Is there any dashboard for those kind of logs in this app?
In RWI current thing, no. That is all built into the enterprise security solution.
Oh, okay. Okay, Sandeep,
But
thanks.
have very specific use cases. Maybe we can work on including them. I don't know if you guys have used the Splunk Security Essentials app. So maybe we can just migrate some of those and bring into your custom RWI app.
Yeah, so currently we do have enterprise security in our corporate technology stack, but maybe in future we might have to sundown the ES, but that's why I was looking for an alternative solution.
Okay, so maybe we'll connect offline. I'll ping you on the user groups. There is definitely Splunk Security Essentials. It's a completely free app which has documented many use cases for IDS and IPS. So you should look at that and just copy paste those into your dashboards.
Okay, thanks.
So Sandeep, we had only one question. So other folks, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, you can go ahead and unmute your line and ask the question right away.
Come on, guys, you can make this interactive. Let's make this fun. I know this has been like a session. Hopefully over time, we'll build some good stuff where we'll have a lot more interaction. Okay, no worries. We'll stop again. I have some more cool stuff to show you before we can break into another Q&A session as such. All right. So I again, all of these slides will be shared with you. There are only some things which I may need to hide because maybe they're not yet ready as such, but otherwise this slide deck should be shareable with you guys. So you can see that we've also documented what apps and technology add-ons will be compatible with the RWI solution. Again, this is available at this link. So, across different solutions for VPN, data loss detection, malware, threat hunting, monitoring, SaaS solutions, security evasion, asset inventory, COVID-related attacks, and even things like your virtualized infrastructure, shared resource availability, supporting infrastructure, VPN infrastructure. So we have tons of apps that are now compatible with the RWI solution. And the idea is that we'll continue growing the RWI solution so that our customers become more efficient at managing this entire remote thing that we are now into, right? So the idea is that over time, Splunk will keep building that. And again, we're looking for customers themselves to give present use cases so that we can keep improving that app as such. So that's kind of like the idea behind all of this. So I will not waste my time on that part of it, but so how do you get your hands on RWI? So that's like a simple question that obviously all of you will have. Like I mentioned, RWI is a completely free app. So you can just go to Splunk base and you can download, you can just search for RWI and you should be able to get that from here. Okay. So again, all of these things will be shared with you guys. You can just download it from here. We also have like a GitHub link, which I have linked over there. The GitHub link presents how you install this application, how it works, what add-ons we have integrations into, how do you install those add-ons, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so you can go through these things and you can install it yourself. So that's the idea behind it. So simple, install, get data in using the add-ons that you have. And then finally, if you want to create your own custom add-ons or you want to troubleshoot, you can do that. We provide links for doing that. Idea is, if you want to just install, it's very easy. You just need some fundamental skills. If you want to get data in, basic skills are required. I wouldn't say it's super easy. I'm pretty sure that if you guys have played around with Splunk a little bit, you'll be able to manage this. All it requires is understanding which technology to download, how to configure it, and get the data in. Okay? And that should start working for you properly. Now, if you want to do some kind of custom data collection, then you need to understand concepts like what is CIM, which is our common information model, and how do you map all of the data that's coming in into the common information model, and then check your macros and stuff like that. So this requires perhaps a little bit more Splunk skills. I would say it's advanced skills. But again, for somebody who's like a power user, I think you can easily flow through this one. Before I, kind of conclude this part of it, just some quick words about what is common information model. You can see that common information model is kind of an open standard. It's not really a Splunk invented technology. It provides a mechanism for IT systems to create like a data model for how do you manage information for a particular system. So like, for example, if I were to say, I'm getting data for authentication, for example, let's say Windows authentication always sends it as SIP for source IP address. So in my authentication model, it says source underscore IP is this particular IP address, but Windows may be sending that as SIP. Linux may send it as source. Mac may send it as IP. And some other operating system might send it as incoming, right? So the common information model presents a mechanism in which all those people can talk in a common language and you can report on that. So that's the data model. So it's basically raw data once it's indexed can still be translated on the fly. And all of our add-ons for getting this information in, like for example, our Windows add-on, our Linux add-on, the Mac add-on, and all of those things have already been adapted. They map to this common information model. So all of the reports and dashboards that we've created in RWI will be against the common information model. So if your data is not presenting properly and it's a custom use case that custom add-on that you've built, you just have to map it as a one-time activity into that data model and all of your information will populate. Again, obviously, it'll even matter to something like an authentication failure. So, different solutions use different things. Some might call it failed login, unsuccessful login, cannot log in. So you again map that information into these tags. So We provided some use cases, some videos as to how you can make your own add-ons CIM compliant. Very cool stuff to do all of these things. And again, if you want to make it even simpler, we also have something called as add-on builder. Now, add-on builder is a mechanism which you can create your own technology add-ons, and that itself has a CIM mapping capability. So that's the only thing that probably requires a little bit of configuration for remote work insights. Okay. Some important links to get started. Again, how do you where do you download RWI from? How do you go about installing it? How do you configure a third-party solution to integrate with RWI? So there's a great blog item that was created by one of our Splunkers, talks about how to do it, and goes into details about what are the things that you can do. Okay, it's taking a moment for it to refresh on my machine, but basically it gives you examples in detail about how you map it to the CIM model, how do you kind of map those elements to the CIM, how do you make sure that the reports are working properly, the dashboards are reflecting data, all of that kind of stuff. So you can gives you great troubleshooting steps to get this working for you. And if you like the solution and you want to talk about it to your boss, your customers, we provide some links. Again, it's a free app. We're not trying to sell the solution. A lot of content is available within Splunk and for partners. So we provided links separately for all of them. I would encourage you to kind of go through these things and share that with your customers. So, if they're already a Splunk customer, they should be using this. It's free, right? And it's possible that they're already ingesting all of that data. So they don't really need to do any additional work besides just deploying that app. So it can be quite useful. There are also some very cool new COVID-related apps that have been launched. So, we want to talk a little bit about that. I'm guessing that you guys might have already seen these things. So there is a COVID-19 app which shows details like, the number of infections by different regions, by different countries, all of that kind of stuff. We have all of those kind of things over here. So you can use this as a starting point to kind of monitor what is going on in the system, right? So, like, for example, you want to have, you go to your organization and say that, hey, look, these are the number of infections within Karnataka or Maharashtra. And then these are the infected regions, and you may want to prevent people from logging in over here. So all that kind of stuff can be done with these solutions. We also have that Splunk Cloud Gateway, which provides a mechanism to access all of these dashboards remotely using our Splunk mobile app. So even if, for instance, your Splunk search head is not on the internet, not on the DMZ, if you install Splunk Cloud Gateway, it provides a mechanism via which you can access those dashboards remotely. So it's a good solution to have if in case your customers are saying that, hey, look, I want to access those Splunk dashboards remotely. I'm not connected to VPN and things like that. So you can evaluate these kind of solutions. Okay, so I'll skip ahead with some of these things. Again, all of these links are available to you guys. One thing that I do want to talk about is for new customers of Splunk. If you don't have Splunk and you kind of want to play around with work insights, it's possible for you to do that. We have something called as Autobahn that we've introduced, which is you connect with a Splunk representative and say that, this is the customer name, and, we are very interested in evaluating remote work insights. What will do, they'll give you a free Splunk Cloud instance. That means you don't even have to install Splunk on your environment. You can install it directly on Splunk Cloud. It'll be available for 90 days for trying out these RWI capabilities. You'll also have a Splunker who will kind of help you onboard this data and show you how it works and things like that. So the idea is, again, to ease through all the companies in terms of remotely managing their infrastructure, get used to it. And of course, we're pretty convinced that if they like it, they will eventually make a purchase. But this is something that you can talk to your customers. If they don't have Splunk license, they can always request for it using this kind of a mechanism. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is, okay, we talked a lot about what is available using remote work insight. But what else can you do, right? So, this is Splunk. Splunk is fantastic at getting data from practically any source. So we actually want to talk a little bit about another kind of solution that we are building, which is called Enterprise Health and Safety Analytics, especially because now that we've, like all organizations are now opening back up, it's important to kind of figure out how this is going to span out, right? So we've kind of created another solution called as the COVID health analytics application. So what we're doing over here is, in addition to all of your Zoom and all of that kind of stuff, we're getting details like badge access. So, like for example, people go in to a particular office and they log in. So, they after that they go from one room to another. So this is like a dashboard which presents how you can use that to your benefit. So, like for example, you can see that this particular organization has about 2,650 employees. 2,292 are temporary remote because of obviously the current situation. 183 are permanent remote, so maybe they always work remotely. In office is only 175 people right now. And you can see that across your workforce, you have 127 people who are tested as high risk, which means that they've been tested possibly positive or running high fever as such. And there are 524 which are not even tested. So again, possibly could be a high risk kind of a thing. We also provide details like workforce, employee temperature kind of data. So this is basically we're getting data from badge access as well as HR data. So if your organization wants to start allowing employees to come in, it most important for them is to make sure that they are healthy and you're not passing that infection anywhere else, right? So that becomes very important. And you can see where people are logging in from, what are the test status for different organizations, all of that kind of stuff. We can also see where they're currently working out of. So this current dashboard we have presented is mostly for the US, but you can obviously create it for any of your different organizations as well. We also provide, let me increase the size here a little bit. We can provide detailed employee data also. So, you can do things like where they're connecting from. So, you can see that we've masked the first name, last names as much as possible. So you only look at it from where they're logging in, what they're using it for, and that kind of stuff. Maybe if you have like a detailed person who's supposed to have access to those things, like an HR person who is genuinely concerned about providing additional help for that person, then maybe you can provide, you can remove the PII mask and you can find out what their people are. But idea is that, we mask all of that information for you. To give you an example of how this can be very useful to you. So, take an example where, let's say, people walk into a particular location. So let's say here we've kind of shown it by different campuses that you might have. So, like a Northwest campus, Northeast campus, but, in maybe you could have something like Electronic City and things like that, right? So you could have those kind of regions also. So why is this important is because as organizations start opening up, it might be important to know which regions are impacted. So like, for example, in Bengaluru, one particular office got infected or one person with an infection walked in. Do you have to close on the entire Bengaluru office? Maybe yes, maybe no. So this will present you those kind of cool use cases that you can show to your customers. Like, for example, you keep a track of who have been accessing the cafeteria, the lobby, the meeting rooms, and that kind of stuff. And you can see that there are spikes. So it's possible that during lunchtime, everybody rushed in, right? So maybe you want to do like some kind of staggered approach. So you allow some employees to go between 11 to 12, another set of employees to go from 12 to 1, and then finally another set of employees to go between 1 to 2. So, or have different cafeterias that have opened up for that particular space so that you don't have too many people at the same time. And you can use this kind of dashboarding to ensure social distancing is adhered to. Okay. You could also have things like, idea about which are the regions which have the maximum number of people. So you can see that there are particular meeting rooms which have large number of people or lobby entrance at that particular time. So like, for example, maybe at 10 a.m. everybody comes in. So lobby is a high possibility of an infection because everybody goes through that particular region and things like that. So you can use this kind of dashboard to find out exactly what's going on and finally say that, we need to take corrective sections. Batch activity, where people have been logging in, how they've been logging in, and things like that. So you can see that, some spikes over there in particular things, or maybe you have elevator access, as you can see over there, right? So maybe you want to even stagger people using the elevators because that becomes hotspots for you. And you can see over here as to which are those particular areas where there have been potential hotspots. Okay. Now those might become areas which you may want to troubleshoot or figure out exactly what happened over there. So cool dashboard should do. And the final thing that I want to talk about is if you, let's say, in a particular user here, he's been identified as a potential COVID infection, right? So what you can do is you can just provide his details, and then what we've done over here is we kind of quickly tell you what is all the areas that that person has used in the last 1 week, for example. So you can see that total number of badge tracing events, there are about 4,000 events. Total zones he's accessed is about 3,000. Total confirmed close contacts is 7. I'll come to how we've done that also. But you can see that, which over time, what all areas that he spent time with. So, he spent a lot of time in the hallway area, a lot of time in the storage area, a lot of time in the meeting rooms, all of that kind of stuff. So it becomes very easy for you to know exactly where all he accessed. And what we're doing over here is pretty cool. So what you can see over here is we've done it by the zone type. So you can see that he accessed the cafeteria, the entrance, the hallway, and so on. You could also do it by the floor. I want to refresh this page once. So you can do it by the floor also. So you can see which floors he actually used. So he didn't use too much of the first floor, a little bit of the fourth floor at that times. The floor second and third are the ones which he probably accessed the most. Second, obviously, being the most, right? So you know exactly what happened. And then you can also find out what are the hotspots that he actually used. So you can see that floor 2, these are the particular hotspots that he used that you need to use. So this is very useful because let's say a particular user goes to a particular building, let's say only building number 14, and in building number 14, he's been only on floor number 3. So you don't have to shut down the entire campus. You can say that only that building, that particular floor needs to be kind of cleaned and sanitized, right? So this can be a very useful solution to help with all of those things. Okay? So this is kind of like a art of the possible that we want to talk about with Splunk. Okay, and I mean, obviously, now that we are trying to go back to normal, you can see a lot of companies have kind of said how they should be going back to normal. But the most important aspect of this whole thing is that, it's not about us getting bored at our homes. It's about how do we stay safe and continue contributing to the organization, to the growth of the countries as well, right? So it's important that we stay together on this. So employee health and safety is the most critical requirement for all organizations today. So, how do you work with this is where the solution comes in. So, what we showed you is a simple example of the art of the possible. Get badging data, get application data, get other sources, and then bring that all into Splunk, and you can build some very cool use cases into Splunk. So that was like the idea behind this presentation about what we have for Remote Work Insight and so on. Some screenshots, I will not go into details about all of those things, but you've seen some of these things. But this is one screenshot that I want to talk about, something that we built for our customers. So you can see that north, south, east, west campus. You can see that west manufacturing has been closed. And within those containment zones, you can build out some kind of dashboard saying that this is how it is structured. This is a red zone, that is a green zone, how they're moving around, where you should ensure social distancing. Suddenly, let's say you have some video feeds coming in, and let's say you have a solution that does video recognition. So you can even use that for social distancing and feed that data into Splunk. So potentially, immense number of use cases open up. So Splunk becomes a great opportunity for us to kind of build all of these kind of dashboards into. So I'll stop over here. I'll pause for questions. But I hope you found this useful, and I hope that you'll download these solutions and try it out yourself. Again, idea is it's free. It's not a marketing session. It's we want to encourage more people to use these solutions and take it forward. I'll pause for questions here.
There have been no more questions. So, other folks, if you have any questions for the first session, please go ahead and ask them now. You can unmute your line.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, hi Sandeep, Vibhu here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is regarding that zone-based dashboard that you showed. When we could collect data like at what time, on which floor the person is. Can you go back to that?
Right, yeah. I believe you're talking about this one, or
The art of the possible.
Or for a particular badge access, I think this is the one. Yeah, maybe this one you were talking about, which floor he accessed and stuff like that.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one. So, first of all, how can we collect this kind of data? Like, what goes on? What kind of data are we collecting here that it can tell at what time, what floor the person has been on?
Yeah, so the idea is that we're hoping that multiple ways. One here that we're using is simple badge access. So we are assuming that there are multiple rooms. So he badges in, he's in that zone. He badges out, he's out of that zone. He's in that associated interconnecting room. Then he goes into, let's say, a cafeteria. Then he's in that zone. So we're finding out that time that he was there in that particular thing because he badged in but didn't badge out. So that's like one way. What other customers can do is, let's say they're connected to the corporate network. So you could even use the IP addresses maybe to triangulate to find out exactly where that particular person is. Maybe that's not accurate. So you'll have to use like different combinations of doing those things. But essentially, it's the art of the possible, right? So it's possible. What we've also done is we kind of integrated like a information thing where we talk about how we even do this. Like that zone part itself is pretty cool. What we've done is we've used stream stats and event stats to kind of build them together and then say that within 30 seconds if there has been a contact, then we created like a high risk, and then we use some kind of logic for doing that. And like for example, we use some machine learning to kind of cluster people together. So like for example, a user was in particular location from, let's say, 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And at the same time, there were other users at the same time. So we use some kind of clustering algorithms. If you guys have used machine learning toolkit, then you'll know how this works. So you use that machine learning clustering algorithm to kind of group them together. And we use that again. Once you have that information, it's very easy to dashboard.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandeep.
Sure. Good question. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I think I've already overshot by a couple of minutes, but hopefully you found that pretty cool in terms of what remote working site can do. Okay, I guess I will hand it over to you, Niket. You may want to transfer host privileges to me again so that I can monitor the session now.
Should I also stop recording?
What if Niket presents, it won't record? What is the issue?
No. You just switched. So Sandeep, you are the
You
host.
can hold the. No, okay, fine, sure. It's still recording. All right. Thanks, Niket. Over to you.
Thanks for the wonderful session. Okay. So I'm actually sharing my screen. People can see the PPT.
Yes, we see a screen.
So I'm going to talk about Splunk dashboard journey. Again, we are making some forward-looking statements. During the course of session, we'll be talking about some of the products which are either not released or in beta, and we will not be able to ensure that the functionality which we discussed today will be delivered as we speak in the session today. So whenever you decide or evaluate anything, just make sure that you are actually using it out of whatever is available at present in now. The session, actually, I was trying to set up a poll for this, the dashboard journey. I hope that people here have created a dashboard throughout their journey sometime while working on Splunk projects. there are various types of dashboards, and I wanted to ask which of these five that you see over here you guys have used. But I'll just actually change the question right now. Has anyone in the session used advanced XML? I'll just reverse the question now. Anybody heard of advanced XML?
Yes.
Used it before for anything?
No, we didn't use it, but we were troubleshooting one thing. There was some issue. The download functionality for one of the tables was not working, so we were troubleshooting into that. So we found out that the dashboard was using advanced XML.
Thanks for sharing that.
Uh,
Sure. Sure. There have been various kinds of dashboards. Advanced XML used to be present in Splunk 5x, and they got deprecated from 6.3 onwards. They got finally completely removed from 7x some versions. Right now, the dashboards that we have out there are actually based on Simple XML, CSS and JS extensions of Simple XML. We can also use HTML dashboards. During the conf last year, we had heard about a new dashboard framework, and people had worked on some of the beta releases even a year before that. So that is the new dashboard framework that is coming in. We have certain apps like ITSI, premium solutions like ITSI, which uses something like Glass Table, which allows us to perform drag, drop, resize, and those kind of functionality as well. So there are a lot of options available. This session is actually going to talk about the dashboard framework as a journey, as well as our journey as a user when we start using dashboard. So I will actually not be using the presentation. The session will be around the actual demo of some of the things that we can do within Splunk while creating dashboard. So let's say I have a certain issue, right? I've been given Splunk and data is being ingested. For this particular demo, I'm actually using Splunk's internal log itself. I've also ingested some of the dummy log from a gaming company called Buttercup Games, which is a fictional data. Some of these data is what we'll be using for our session today. So let's say first thing that we want to explore, right? And most likely one of the search that we may enter, consider this as a Google bar, and you've come to this app that you have been given access to. First thing that you might want to search is maybe a thing like error, right? So this is how you'll search. The moment you search, actually Splunk starts to give analytics from that point onwards. I don't have to know any SQL at this point of time. I can actually try to see the data and understand that a lot of errors are happening with the data that I have been given access to. So what we can do is on the left side, what we notice is some of the fields that Splunk has extracted on its own. This feature within Splunk is called schema on the fly. Basically, as you are searching the data, it tries to give you the fields that are relevant for your investigation. Right? It doesn't build a hardbound schema as per data while ingesting something similar to how it is being done in relational databases. So that's not what is being done here. So the fields gets generated as we are searching certain things. Right? So here, what I notice is I'm getting data from 4 different type of sources. And let's say we know that Splunk's internal process, the main daemon that is running is Splunk T. And I'm interested in errors that have happened only for Splunk T. All I have to do is click on Splunk T. And now whatever errors I see over here, and this is the timeline view, and we can actually just select a particular reason and get the complete details about how many errors happened, and we can still see that a lot of errors happening across different things. So this is the point where, let's say I wanted to plot errors over time, right, across various components. All I have to do is click on that particular link and it plots a time chart of these errors, and we can actually check out how various errors have happened. There are certain things in the UI that will allow you to configure these things easily for better interpretation also, as well. For example, if I just select legend and turn the series compare on, and I move from left side towards the right, what we can see on the right side is that the legend actually shows how many of each error is happening across in the selected time zone. Right. So at this point of time, we have got a search query, let's say that we were interested in. All I have to do is save this particular thing as dashboard panel. And I can say, give it a name. And I'm just calling it simple XML for the time being. This is actually errors, Splunk errors over time. And I'm going to save it in a dashboard. The moment I save it, I get the chart over here. One of the things that recently got introduced was the dark theme. I'm just changing the theme for better visibility on screen. So I've converted it to dark theme. And now I can see the same data, whichever we analyzed, and it has come over here without us typing even single line of SQL. So that is first thing. The people who are trying to start their journey, I mean, they can actually do a lot of things just by slicing and dicing data. They don't have to know much of SQL, but then SQL, Splunk processing language, is quite close to SQL, and they can actually do a transformation from their existing querying language to Splunk processing language. So what I'll do is I'll just edit it and I come to the source code just to show how this looks like. This is a simple XML dashboard structure where we've got row panel kind of a view. So we've got a dashboard. This is the name that we had given. And there is a row. Within a row, there is a panel. Within a panel, there is any kind of visualization like chart, table, or single, or if you are plotting map, it will be there. So those kind of visualization, and each visualization is powered by a search query, and that is the query that we see over here. And this is what we had written. So when we said we want to look at error over time, Splunk ran its own SPL which says time chart, which plots the chart with time on x-axis, and it is splitting by a series called components. We were seeing the errors happening across various components. So that's what it does. So this is basically simple XML. For each visualization, what you would notice is there are a lot of configuration options. Some of these can be configured directly from UI. For example, we had enabled series compare, right? So they can be enabled directly from UI. Otherwise, also, you don't have to memorize this because there is a Splunk docs link which provides all the chart configuration reference for you to change various parameters. All right. So this was the first thing that we wanted to come back here and notice that this is a particular time chart. What if we have to interact and make convert this into something like I should be having capability of selecting different time zone and those kind of things. All we have to do is we have to do edit again. Click on add input, and let's say we have picked time picker input. We have attached into this particular panel. It's a drag drop thing, right? So even if I don't move, let's say we've added the input and I've not done anything in the UI. So let's go back to the source. One thing that we notice is the root node from dashboard became form, and there is a new node here, which is called field set. Field set has got an input of time that we just now created. This particular structure of having XML to generate your dashboard code is the simple XML dashboarding technique. So this is the first thing that we actually use in our Splunk journey. So I have not saved it. So let me just do once again. So this is the one over here, which was dashboard. The moment I went ahead and added time input, it became form. Let me go ahead and save this. And within Splunk, when we have to take this particular value and assign it to the panels that we wanted to apply it to, right? 1 second. So when we want to apply within Splunk, let's say we have taken a time input and it's a variable, right? If we have given that variable a particular name called field1, within Splunk the variables are called something called token. And when we have to use it, all we have to do is use those tokens afterwards. So let's say I want to attach this particular input to my visualization. What I'll do is I'll go to the search query. Instead of default time picker, what we'll do is we will pick the time picker which we have just now created, and we have seen the value as field1. So I'll just go ahead and apply, save it. If I now change it to last 60 minutes, the dashboard, the panel query runs again, and there are no errors in last 60 minutes. So we can just go ahead and change these things accordingly, and the query will change. So this is how we have linked it. And the moment we go back to the source code, what we would notice is there is this sign where that particular token name with earliest and latest value has been added to the search query, and it is prefixed and suffixed with $sign. So this is the way of using a variable in Splunk. Whenever we want to name it, we will call it token something, and when we have to use it, we have to place it within $signs. So this is still simple XML. We have created a form and we have created our first panel, right? What I've done is I've taken this particular example and I've created some other panels also. And here the difference is we have created those panels through various techniques. For example, the first one, if you notice here, there is one place where it's just giving the current dashboard the name in a panel. And you notice here there is a lock symbol. This is because we have converted that first panel into something called pre-built panel. Instead of running a search query here and showing it in the dashboard, the panel has been created somewhere else and we are just referring to that panel code. It's something like macro replacement also, where we have given our own reference. The pre-built panel is this particular name. What we can do is we can just go to settings, user interfaces, pre-built panels, and dashboard header was that particular name. So we can just click on that particular name and we can actually see the same kind of structure over here as well. So there is a panel, within panel there is a visualization, within visualization there is a search query. There is also an HTML panel which is actually being used to display the final data as token, and this is the variable that I talked about, right? So there is a particular event handler for this query, which tells that whenever the search completes, take the dashboard label and pass it to a token, which will be displayed as the dashboard header name. So that is what is being done over here. So that is a pre-built panel. That is one another way of adding your search, panels to a dashboard. Second one is inline search. And inline search, we have already seen one example. Third one is scheduled report. And this is almost similar to pre-built panel in a way that we had run our search query. Okay, so let me just pull one search query. So we had run a search query and we have, let's say, scheduled it to run for last 60 minutes. And instead of saving it as a dashboard, we have actually saved it as a report. And we will say that hourly errors. Time picker is not required here. We are not using that for visualization. And we'll just go ahead and save it. So this is a particular report which I can actually go ahead and schedule to run every hour, and it actually runs every hour, populates the results for you. What happens is the results are being pulled here in this particular panel by reference to that particular scheduled report, which is running with the frequency. The advantage of this would be that if whether one person is accessing or 10 people are accessing it, they will always get the values from results and they will not run the search query. So that would be the advantage. All right. So that is second type. I just wanted to take another type of creating panel as well, and that comes from something called data model within Splunk. And this ties with the same talk that Sandeep was mentioning earlier, right? For SIM compliance, we should actually create a data model where the data is created as a hierarchy, and people always refer to correct nodes. Basically, you can, by this particular technique, you will avoid SPL errors. You will avoid retyping of the same code over and over again, and maybe doing mistakes over there. So the third tech, I've just opened one particular data model. And let's say I am actually interested in something which is always being used, right? So Splunk is always indexing data. So I want to see the search load by users, and this is what I'm interested in. So so you would notice that each time in this particular data model hierarchy, which is a hierarchy, tree kind of view, where if I just say Splunk server, it types certain query. The moment I go to scheduler, it adds something to that query and it actually filters the data as per our need. So if I go to performance, it is actually looking after performance data. And then within that, we are actually looking at search users by users. So I'll just go ahead and open this thing in Pivot, an option over here. And I'll just open search load user in a pivot view. And it will actually give me a pivot where I can actually play around with this data. And what I want to do is, first thing, I want to split rows by time. I want it to create a time chart. So first thing I selected over here. Then second thing is I want to split it by users. And final thing is I just want the sum of all the historical searches, let's say. So all the historical searches, I want the sum of all the historical searches. And it creates some of the report. I can actually go on the left side and go ahead and tell that, I want a line chart. Again, here you would notice that some of the formatting options are again available. And this is where I'm interested in series compare on, let's say. And if I hover over here on the right side, I can see that legend values are changing as per my changes. So this is the place where I can actually just go ahead and save as a dashboard panel. This is what has been done over here. If we go to edit and check this sign symbol here, this is a query which has been powered by pivot command. And we in this complete analysis, we never wrote the SPL, right? I mean, we just did some of the slicing and dicing of data. It created the pivot query for us. That is what is being run over here. We can actually go ahead and write our own SPL for this also, but I mean, I'm just trying to show some of the options of how we can create panels to simple XML dashboard. So those three were the those four types were the types of adding panels to this particular dashboard. Still, everything is completely simple XML. If I go to the source code, we see that it's a kind of XML data that we are seeing here. So we'll go to the next part. From that particular dashboard, from simple XML, we can actually just go ahead and add some of the CSS styling. And that CSS styling can be applied through various ways. That CSS style can be applied either through our CSS to a particular node, or else it can be applied through within simple XML dashboard, or we can actually create our own CSS style sheet and we can apply it to a dashboard. So what will happen is certain things like this. Simple XML will show you things like this, but when we do CSS override, we can actually convert it to certain things like this on the right side. So if I come back to our example, the dashboard which was originally created, we have actually added CSS style. Is there a question?
Questions on the chat. Yeah, but if you guys have any questions, please unmute and ask.
All right. Okay, so that's fine. So with CSS styling, what we can do is we can make better use of extra spaces that we've got in the dashboard, or we can give it a corporate kind of theme where the complete app looks similar, all the dashboards look similar. And like I said, there are various ways to apply CSS. One of the places to see this is Splunk blogs as well. I'll share the link afterwards. After CSS, what we can do next is, what if I want to extend it more? And I'll just open another dashboard here and compare these two. Basically, what we did with simple XML was we created a theme for ourselves. And then still the time picker input for us is actually this built-in Splunk one. And we've got a lot of different accordions, right? We've got a lot of selection which people have to change. Some of the times we have got a very stringent rule, right? That we cannot allow people to do all-time searches. So we don't want people to do certain things like this. So what if we want to implement our own time picker? All right. So this is a JS extension. What we are trying to do over here is, we've got, instead of Splunk's built-in time picker, we've got HTML time input. Every time we change the time selection, right, it actually runs the query. So it could be the use case for you to integrate whatever input you have already available, and then maybe customize it as per the dashboard needs. So that is what we can do over here. And that is the JS extension. What has been done in the backend is, if I go to the source code, there is a JS script file that has been included in this particular dashboard, and within Splunk panel, there is an HTML panel that has been created over here, which has got two HTML date input. So this is input of type date. So this is a regular HTML web page date time input that has been added, and through this JS we are actually trying to control behavior of that time picker input. If we have to open that particular JS file in Splunk, all we have to do is change the path to static app, the app name, the JS file name, the JS file name, and it was sitting under scripts folder. So I'll just add that path also. What we can do is we can actually open that JS file name and we can see something over here. So like I was talking about tokens earlier, right? The variables in Splunk are called tokens. So there are two types of token models. As of now, just understand that one changes every time and one can change only when submit button is clicked. So that is the difference between default and submitted token models. So what we are trying to do is, every time HTML input is changed, like input from date, whenever it is changed, we try to get the value from it, assign it to the token model, and we are doing it for both the inputs as well as whenever value changes in the token also, we are actually taking that value, assigning it to token model as well, and updating it back to the input. So we are actually kind of creating that loop where both the inputs and the tokens, they link with each other through JS files. So certain use cases like this require us to code JS. So those are basically the ways where in current simple XML version, what happens is every time you have to code this, you will have to change a lot of CSS style through CSS extension. You have to code in your own JS stuff whenever you need specific functionalities. Another option here is actually if you convert this to HTML. So this particular option may or may not work with all the settings. All the things of your existing simple XML may not work, especially the things that have been introduced recently. For example, one of the most recent things was dark mode, right? So those things may not work once you convert to HTML. So what I'll just do is I'll just name it something, test HTML, share it in app, and I'll just convert the dashboard and open it and see. It's not even available. Wait one second. So let me just pick another dashboard. So one of the other disclaimers I should have done is because this is a live demo, some of the things may not work when we try to demo it. So convert to HTML. I'm actually just calling it test. And I can just try to click and view. So it's almost the same view, but now obviously, like I said, dark mode is not working. But then if I just go ahead and click on edit, you will notice a huge difference between what we have seen so far. Now the complete dashboard code is not XML. It has converted into an HTML code, and there are various kinds of sections here. For example, there is HTML top section, where you would notice that there is a header for Splunk, and then there are field sets that we had seen just now, input, time picker input. There is a placeholder for HTML for that. There are a lot of JS libraries that are included, and these are Splunk's JS library. A lot of things like chart, event, and other things have been included. And the other section that you would notice is there is first section for tokens. Sorry, trouble scrolling. Search manager, and then view. Views also is there. So all of these are being written in JS part. So this complete code is actually called Splunk Web Framework, and that is what it converts to the moment we convert a simple XML dashboard to HTML. So at present time, I would say that if you've got any use cases where certain advanced things are required and you are actually thinking that you can convert it to HTML to write it faster, code it everything in the same page, you still have an option to use CSS and JS extensions, and you can ignore HTML for most of the times. And you have to always know that some of the things in HTML dashboard may not work as expected. So that's about HTML dashboard. Some of the one of the very good app for you to see to learn this thing is called the Splunk Dashboard Examples app. You can get it from Splunk base, and it has got a lot of these examples. Some of the things that you should notice about these examples are that while most of the examples do not have anything written over here, you can see sometimes extensions are written against some of the examples. These are the examples which require either JS or CSS extension. What you can do is click on any of these examples and see the complete code, understand how that is working by looking at its corresponding JS code or CSS code, and you can actually create your own dashboard yourself. For example, this particular example is creating icons next to the value in a table. So that is one example. There is something called custom visualizations as well. If you are thinking that whatever visualizations Splunk has given you is not sufficient, you can also go for some of the custom visualizations which have been built on top of custom visualization API. And this is the place where Kamlesh was mentioning earlier that he has created a lot of visualizations. What you can actually do is you can go ahead and create your own custom visualization if you don't find those examples here. or on Splunk base as well. So what I'll do is I'll just click on one of these. And on top, you would notice that it actually says that you need to download this particular visualization. If you have not downloaded this app and installed in your Splunk instance, these examples may not work. And if you notice on the bottom piece, it is actually pointing to Splunk base, which is actually like an app store for Splunk. So that is where you can get this visualization and many more. So for example, this horizon chart is something where you can actually compare various things through a spark line. And this is, while this is actually showing you stock kind of view, you can actually consider creating this thing for CPU, memory, and those kind of things that you want to measure. So visualizations, if you notice on Splunk base, you can just search for custom visualization and you will notice there are two types of visualizations here also. Some of them are saying app inspect fast, some of them are saying actually built by Splunk. So app inspect fast is something that has been built by community, but Splunk has laid out a lot of rules, grounds for checking whether the app pass those minimum criteria or not. Earlier, Sandeep was mentioning about add-on builder. That also does this kind of app inspect testing before it publishes the app. Similarly, custom visualization you can actually run it through app inspect, ensure that your custom visualization will work with Splunk. So I will be jumping on to the new dashboard framework. Oh, sorry, I'll just show you first. Let me just show you some of the more examples of what we can do with simple XML. If you notice here, I've just converted a lot of metrics into red, orange, and green kind of KPIs. If I click on any of this, I get the details over here. So you can do this. All of this has been done directly through CSS extension. There has been no JS code also involved here. Something like deep dive view. What you would notice here is this is one of the art of the possible screenshot that Sandeep was sharing earlier. You can actually split the chart time series and you can actually click create drill down as per your need. For example, this metrics event I want to explore. If I click on metrics, I will get the details of the place and the value that I have clicked on. And those I can use for further dashboards. So, and again, this one also doesn't have any JS. These are all built in. And the final thing is you can create image overlay as well in simple XML. But then think about Splunk dashboard example also has one of the examples here. But the problem with image overlay within simple XML is you will have to create a lot of CSS overrides to ensure that everything positions properly. For example, let's say web store conversion rate is over here, the 100% that you see over here. If I just make it 225, that thing moves, right? So those kind of adjustments you have to do so that it overlays correctly and it actually depicts your story that you are trying to tell. So it is a bit clumsy here in simple XML, but it is possible. It's not like it's not possible. One of the other things I want you guys to notice is when we are trying to design these stuffs, we should actually create a flow from left to right, top to bottom. One of the reason for them is it works in most of the cases because most of the literals actually goes from left to right and you actually read from top to bottom. So that is one of the design thing that we can actually take care while creating these kind of stories. But then we can actually see this and we can understand that these stories are not that easy to build in simple XML. So what we can do is we know that there are certain premium apps that have got glass table, right? Let me just open one another browser. Give me 1 second. I just get this browser. So premium apps have got glass table, which is where you have got drag drop kind of features, and that is where you can actually create these stories better. So just give me a second. sign me out. So let me just sign back in. I will just share it in a second. Meanwhile, I can take a question if there are any. Okay, no questions. Okay, so let me bring ITSI app. This is a premium app by Splunk. You can access this on Splunk Oxygen. Usually, if you are SE1, Sales Engineer 1, you will get an access, even if you are a partner, you will get access to this. So I'm trying to open ITSI. And let me go to glass table. So within ITSI, if you see, I mean, under glass table, I can actually see there are two different types of version. One is classic, which comes with an option to upgrade, and there is something called beta. So I'll talk about beta next, but then first thing is, let's see one of these glass tables. All right. So this is one where we have created a picture. The top portion is actually showing your financial performance. The bottom position is bottom layout is actually showing operational performance as well as the customer satisfaction. If you have got mechanisms to collect those, metrics can be actually laid out as per how people want to see. You can actually notice that there are various visualization elements. So glass tables are good to tell a story. We have actually created a view where people can actually easily do edit. They can do drag drop and they can do copy paste also. I mean, I can actually try Control C, Control V, and it actually creates a new one. So those kind of things I can try. I mean, and it's good at it. But the thing is, if I click on any of these, it actually restricts me to certain types of visualization that I can show. I can actually show single value, I can show a gauge, I can show sparkline, or I can show a trending. So we've got trending over here, we've got sparkline over here, we've got single values over here. We cannot do charting and combination of this kind of storytelling in glass table as well. So in order to solve this, I will just not save it. In order to solve this issue, there was another app that was created for enterprise, and even in ITSI, the beta is something similar. It is the new dashboard framework. Okay, so I'm actually coming to an app within Splunk called Splunk Dashboard Beta, and I have created some of the dashboards here. I'll just try to show you. The app looks similar to the previous one, and the dashboard also may look similar. But there are a lot of differences in how exactly it works in the backend. So let me just open some of these. Campus network traffic. Going back to the use case that Sandeep was showing as art of the possible, if you have got any SVG image, SVG is scalable vector graphic, which allows you to create images using like coding language. Basically, you tell your particular diagram to be plotted instead of it being a static image. So if you've got any kind of SVG image with paths created, for example, various rooms have different paths that have been created for them. If you have those kind of things, what you can do is you can find that path ID, and with that path ID, you can color those paths. And this is a very powerful mechanism because it allows you to perform your own choropleth map. So this first example is by built-in choropleth map in the new dashboard framework. But this, sorry, sorry. This second example actually created by an SVG image. So now this has been created by an SVG image of various countries, and with that errors, actually I'm actually plotting across the globe using SVG instead of Choropleth. It actually gives the link of that also. So far, we are seeing something similar to what has been done in glass table plus simple XML. One more example here is, again, something like this will allow things like contact tracing, where you can actually design various floor plans and color them accordingly as per data. So something different that you would notice here is the moment I click on edit source for any of these, and if I go to the source code, it is not XML. Everything is converted into JSON, and it's got various sections like visualization, data sources, inputs, layouts. There is something called defaults which has already also been added. We are not using inputs, any of the inputs here, but we can create inputs also. But these are the layouts for the dashboard data framework, and it's all created to using JSON instead of simple XML. If we go to any of these, let's say, visualization settings, for example, let's take things like visualization table header background color has been set as this. So this option configuration wise is very similar to how it was created in simple XML. Only thing is it has the structure has changed from simple XML to JSON. So it may take us time to grasp all this, but the concept remains the same, that you actually create the dashboards using JSON instead of simple XML. So this is again something similar that we are seeing, that this is possible through simple XML as well. We can create our own story, but apart from the glass table, we can actually attach to this dashboard. We can attach our own charts and other visualization. So if I just do a full screen, actually I can plot something like this in a dashboard where people can interact with it, and they will have the complete story of what is happening along with other metrics that they would want to see. So this is when the story completes, when you have capability of creating any kind of visualization. So basically, the new dashboard frameworks solve two problems for you. A lot of times people ask one thing, right? I have got Splunk visualizations. How do I get it out of Splunk and show it in Maya? Is one problem. Second problem is within Splunk, I've got only these many visualizations. How do I extend it? And I have so many good frameworks like React, Vue, Angular out there in market which can create visualizations with data. So the dashboard framework solves those kind of problems for you. The one which is available for you on enterprise, the dashboard beta, Splunk enterprise dashboard beta, doesn't have those capabilities as of now, but it is being built on top of a particular framework that has got all those capabilities. So we will just take a quick peek into that. But I mean, those who have actually attended the conf.conf session, this is actually one of those examples directly. This was presented at .conf 2019, and it is available on Splunk's GitHub. All right. So this particular example actually creates something like a glass table over here. It has got a charting information as well. So what I'll do is I'll just bring up this particular piece of code. I've just followed the step of that particular session. We will be sharing those sessions details also with you. People can still hear me, right?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I think because my laptop just is frozen. So give me a second. See. So yeah. So what I was saying was this was already presented, and step-by-step guide has been given to you through those sessions. We will be sharing that session, as well as the GitHub repository for Splunk code, right, is also shared, and it has got details of how to set it up. So basically, I have set up a React app here on my local, and somehow it is completely frozen. Let me do one thing. I will just reopen the code. But let me try to see if I can run the node. So I basically set up node here. And let me just start and see. So basically it is trying to run this particular app that I've compiled over here. And let's see. The app is refreshing over here. It's still starting. So once this has completely run, the app will refresh and it will actually show that particular visualization. If I'm not able to bring up my code, I just wanted to show a quick change into that and show you how the particular thing can be configured and changed. So while this is loading, let me just open code. So this has loaded over here. And some of my code has not opened yet. So I will still take some questions over here while I'm trying to bring it up. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. No questions? So unfortunately, Visual Studio Code is not opening. So I will just share the JS files here. So basically, you create a React app. You load Splunk's projects for your visualization or the dashboard that you are trying to create. This is using cloud preset here. Doesn't matter. There is one enterprise preset as well. And I'm actually cooking up data in this particular example, so it's not actually connecting to your Splunk instance anyways. So that was one code. Let me just open and show you this other thing that now you will correlate with. If I open something called dashboard definition.js file, what you would notice is similar JSON kind of structure, right? We've got a data source here. And then if I scroll down, we've got inputs, layouts. This is what we have just now seen, right? So this entire thing is being passed to this our Splunk cloud service, this particular app as well. And this is where a lot of visualizations are present. What I'm trying to modify is games per day or score distribution, right? So let's just see the um, so I'm not able to find one second. So the dashboard definition. Or else I'll just stop it here. I'm not able to open source code. So mention single. The above one is actually column chart. So it will be column chart. So this is the column chart. Games per day. I'm actually just going to change it to bar. And I'll just go ahead and save it. And it is refreshing the app. And from column, it becomes a bar chart. So I'll just revert it back to column. So just wanted to show you that we can actually create a React app as well. And it actually solves two problems for you. Now this particular React app, like all the Splunk's visualizations that you've got as packages, right? React packages, you can actually take to your own apps. Other way around, if you have got any external visualization that you want to integrate within Splunk and you've got any of the frameworks like React, Angular, you can still go ahead and integrate that with Splunk dashboards. So both ways, those kind of things are possible. Some of these things have eventually changed. So what I would want you to just try to do is go through the .conf sessions that have happened last year. We will share those links. Definitely explore this particular Git repository as well. Try out some of the blogs as well as the latest Splunk dashboard data from Splunkist. I think I'm right on time. I can take any questions if there are any people.
Indeed. Thanks again, excellent session. I hope it's excited a lot of people to create their own amazing dashboards now. Any questions, anybody?
And Sandeep, you can bring up the next slides also.
So I realized that you did not make me host, so I didn't interrupt the session. So that's fine. So I'll bring up the slides now. I know.
Folks, if you have got any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have joined the Splunk user group on Slack, we can actually collaborate there afterwards as well. We will be sharing out recordings from our side. Please go ahead and unmute yourself if you've got any questions for the session.
Yeah, and while we're at it, I definitely want to talk about some important resources. We'll see how we can kind of circulate with all of you people, but please make sure that you are connected to all of the community groups, events, com sessions. All of these things have some host of amazing knowledge that we can actually leverage to build our own amazing solutions. And I'm also hoping that many of you have actually submitted your .conf papers, and like hopefully it'll be like some fun stuff this time. And since it's all virtual, I think all of us can attend those .conf event this time as well. So hope to see a lot of you guys there. One other thing new is education.splunk.com/free. So there are a bunch of courses that Splunk has now made free. So for everybody, so I would strongly recommend that you guys click on that link and go there. So you can see that Fundamentals 1 is free. There's user behavior analytics, infrastructure overview, a lot of use cases on security, UBA, Phantom, a huge bunch of single effects trainings are now free. And things like that. And in addition to that, there are a lot of education videos. There's a YouTube channel. So, we're trying to be more accessible as possible, right? So good stuff to go back and check.
Yeah, I also wanted to add Splunk Live is going to be around June 17th. There will be different 3 time zones. As per your time zone, you can just go ahead and register for the event depending on your topics of interest.
Right. I do apologize. I forgot about Conflive. I have the link here. So yeah, Conflive is virtual. 17th June it's there, and this is like a rough agenda for that. Questions, anybody? Hope the session was useful. We hope to have you'll get a survey immediately following where we'll ask a couple of questions about how you like the session first of all, and what other kind of sessions you'd like to see in the future. And we want to make this a lot more interactive, so maybe let's make it a little fun also, right? I mean, this is the Bangalore user groups. We should be building on our own cool solutions and things like that. Don't think of us as like Splunk and you are not Splunk or anything. We're all one single Splunk family. So please reach out to us anytime. We are also very passionate and excited about Splunk, so we also like to constantly build some cool use cases and stuff like that. So we tend to work outside of work hours to make sure that we build something cool ourselves. So please feel free to reach out to us. And I mean, obviously, have Kamlesh, Niket, and amazing people like that who are part of the trust members. So we should leverage their expertise when possible.
I'll go ahead and stop the recording. I just want to record it officially. Yeah, saying that did I bore everybody to sleep or what?
No, not. Yeah. So the plan.